Here we are at sunrise in Cooper Marsh on the St. Lawrence River. Marshes are one of my favorite habitats. They're full of life all through the day and all through the night. Behind me on that tall dead tree is a black-crowned night heron. These herons, as the name suggests, hunt at night. They become active as the sun goes down. Here at sunrise, that bird is getting ready to head off to its roost, somewhere in a shady tree, probably not far from the marsh itself. His day is ending, ours is just beginning. Today on Wild by Nature, we're going to visit a marsh by a river's edge, a marsh in a man-made habitat, and meet a bird that lives there that has a very unusual love life. Join me, Michael Runtz, as we explore the amazing world of a marsh. Right now we are in one of the richest habitats on Earth. A marsh is like a tropical rainforest in terms of being very productive. And in fact, it's one of the richest habitats on Earth for its productivity. That means the ability to transform nutrients into all sorts of biomass. And all around me, there's a lot of biomass. All through the water, there are many, many plants, from the very, very tiny things like algae that are microscopic, to the slightly larger, tiny flowering plants like duckweed. Lots of plants all through the water. Some are floating, some are submergent down below the water, and some are on top. The ones that are emergents are all around me, and perhaps the most powerful plant in this habitat is right here, the cattail. The cattails are really amazing plants. They're one of the dominant plants in the entire marsh. Besides the ability of storing vast amounts of nutrients, even some toxins that other plants can't deal with, the cattails really form a whole habitat within themselves. Their root systems make a massive floating mat. And all around me, you can see evidence of how this mat really is perched on top of the water. On the mat formed by the cattails, you'll find a large variety of plants. Some have got great names that apply to the habitat quite nicely. Here we have marsh fern. There's a variety of sedges. There are wildflowers scattered nearby. Over there I see a wild calla. I hear a variety of songs around me, swamp sparrows, and a marsh wren. We just saw that little marsh wren singing from back in the cattails. That was a male on territory. Now the males have a very interesting way of attracting females to their territory. Besides their complex songs, the males also offer gifts. Now the gifts aren't diamonds or fine meals. They actually offer a dummy nest. A nest they produce, they manufacture a nest, but it's never used for nesting. And in fact, the males produce more than one in their territory. And it seems that the number of nests a male produces in his territory reflects the number of females he'll attract, because these males aren't monogamous. They'll have a harem of females at any given time. So let's wander over, because somewhere in this male's territory there must be at least one dummy nest, and if he's a really good male, he may have a number of them around here. They're often near the edge of the cattail, so I'm going to try to get back in here. I'm stuck. Okay. Who needs aerobics when you have marshes to go through? Oh my goodness. There's one, right back in here, right straight ahead of me. I'm probably blocking your view, but I'll try to get around. Whoa! Now, whew. Now if you look right back in here, I hope you can see it. There's a little mound of woven cattails right in here. I'll try to bend that back for you. Hope you can see that. That's one of the male's dummy nests. It's a round ball. Of course, most birds build nests with an open top, a cup nest. This one is a round ball, therefore it's a marsh wren nest. If it was an active nest, there'd be a hole in the side. And there's not. There's no entrance here, so it's not an active nest. I'm not bothering the bird here at all by being near this nest. It's only used to entice females into the territory. Amazing. Look at this. It's a Virginia rail right at my feet. Look at this. Did you see that? That's one of the harder birds to see in a marsh. They're very secretive. It's on the boardwalk. Look at that. Look at that. Back over to the other side. Okay, can you see it through the cattails? It's poking around back in there, probing its long curved beak down into the mud to get small animals out of it. Oh, there he is, there he is. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. What a view. See the striped back? That makes it blend in really well with the cattails. Now these rails, the Virginia rail at least, live right on the cattail mat. It walks all around through the cattails and actually is quite adept too in swimming in the shallow water and looking for its food. It nests on the cattail mat as well. So the bird's whole life cycle really is linked to cattails. The floating mat forms a platform for it for nesting, provides it with a feeding place as well. It's a neat little bird, more commonly heard than seen. If you're in a cattail marsh in late evening, through the night, early in the morning, you're bound to hear these very odd songs of the Virginia rail. We were so lucky to see that. Fantastic. There's always so many things to see and photograph in a marsh, so always bring along your camera and your tripod. Tripods, though, can be really tough to use on a very soft bottom, as most marshes have. But I found that these attachments work beautifully. These are called snowshoes. They're great for snow, and they're outstanding also for very soft bottoms. When we come back, we're going to a very different kind of marsh, one that's man-made. Meanwhile, back to this beautiful flower. See you in a minute. What a tremendous spot. Cattails, blackbirds, ducks, all the inhabitants we just saw in the last spot are right here. This may appear to be the same sort of marsh, but it's not. We're actually at a man-made habitat, a sewage pond. Now a sewage pond is a settling basin where the water comes in from small communities, as we have over here, the town of Alfred. The sewage settles here, but the rich water full of nutrients provides the ideal habitat for a marsh to form. The water in these sewage ponds is just full of nutrients. From phosphorus to nitrogen, there's a huge variety of building blocks for these plants. These plants are food for a huge variety of animals, from very tiny things in the water to the much larger mammals like muskrats. The most common animal here right now is not a very large one, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in numbers. There are thousands, there are millions of these little flies buzzing all around. Now they appear to be mosquitoes, but they're not mosquitoes. They don't bite, they have no biting mouth parts. These are midges. You'll find the adults all through the tall grasses by the pond's edge. The young stage, or the larval stage, lives right down in that water and in that mud. Now these flying midges are certainly food for a lot of the birds found here, but they're also food for a variety of smaller predators too. And right in front of me is one of the most beautiful predators we have in these sewage ponds. This is a little damselfly called a bluette. That name comes from the beautiful blue and black colors found on its body. As you can see, it loves midges. Beautiful little insect, isn't it? The small animals and tiny plants in this water and mud are food for a huge variety of ducks. And sewage ponds are especially rich in that group of birds. Out here we have all sorts of things from shovelers, northern shovelers, to gadwalls, pintails, ruddy ducks. The diversity of ducks is phenomenal. In fact, one of the very best spots next to a natural marsh for ducks are sewage ponds quite often. These ducks sieve through the water and mud to pick up the very small particles of animals and plants that they're after. This northern shoveler over here, it's got a phenomenally big bill, very much shaped like a shovel or a spatula. It's got all kinds of little ridges to sieve out the water. It's also got a very bizarre tongue full of filaments that also aids in pulling out the food from the water. Now there are some birds out here that look like shorebirds somewhat because they're walking around on the mudflats, but they're not shorebirds. There are coots and moorhens out here. The moorhens are chicken-like birds with a bright red bill, while the coots have a white bill and frontal shield on the face. Both those birds live in marshes and also in the sewage pond right here. They wander through the cattails, they nest in the cattails, and feed there as well. But also around the edge of the pond right now, there's a great variety of birds that don't nest here, that are traveling on a great journey much farther north. Oh, a leaf sandpiper right down here. Can you see it right down here? It's a leaf sandpiper, that tiny little sparrow-sized shorebird. Can you imagine a bird that size flying from here to the very high Arctic? And that's only part of its journey. It's already come from South America to get to here right now. Great little shorebird. There are a number of other shorebirds out here too. On that little hummock, you'll see a very tiny leaf sandpiper. Then beside it, a much bigger shorebird with bright yellow legs. That is a lesser yellow legs. Now, there are a number of shorebirds here. These are all passing through right now. But at a pond very close to here, there's another shorebird that nests here, and it's got a most unusual mating system. It's also quite beautiful. Let's go have a look at it. There's a pair right down here. The one on the right is more brightly colored. That's the female. The left one, the duller one, is a male. I'm not confused. They've got a very unusual color pattern. In the Wilson's phalarope, the female bears the bright colors and also courts the males. Besides that, they have another strange behavior in which the female will actually attract several males, not at one time, but through a period of time. When she finally gets a male attached to her, she'll lay a clutch of eggs, and that male does all the work for her, does the incubation, takes care of the young afterwards. She'll find a second male, do the same thing over and over again. She may have 3 or 4 males during the nesting period doing all the work for her. You might call her a bird of the 90s, I suppose, because the roles are almost reversed. But here we are, the Wilson's phalaropes, a very unusual shorebird, both for its color pattern and for a very different kind of nesting strategy. Whether you're in a sewage pond or a cattail marsh by a river, you're bound to meet red-winged blackbirds, one of the commonest birds in North America. They're also a very interesting bird for their breeding behavior. When we return, we'll meet a man who has spent years peering into the bedrooms of this very colorful bird. I'd like you to meet Dr. Pat Weatherhead, a behavioral ecologist with Carleton University in Ottawa. Pat's been studying the red-winged blackbirds for a number of years and is about to show us some incredible behaviors. Pat, lead the way. Now, Pat, we've been to sewage ponds and natural marshes and I've seen lots of red-winged blackbirds. Obviously, their numbers make them a great bird to study. Now, you've examined a variety of aspects of the bird's life, including the role of those red patches on the male. So how about telling us what purpose they serve?
The epaulets are used by males in aggressive displays, in aggressive interactions with other males, defending territories. They're used in courting females.
The males, as I understand, have multiple mates on their territory, so did you find any relationship between the size of the male's red epaulet and the number of females he gets, or the coloration of his epaulets?
I wish I could say yes on that one. No, the epaulets are still a bit of a puzzle to us. But interestingly, there's no clear indication that variation in the size or the subtle color differences in male epaulets explains why some males get more mates than other males.
Huh. Now, in a marsh this size, how many females might a really attractive male have in his territory?
I think the most we've ever found in here is 6.
So, Pat, in any territory, a male might have a number of females. Is there any chance there's hanky-panky going on at the territory boundaries?
Well, in fact, that's one of the things that we've been looking at. And it turns out the males aren't able to keep track of all their females, or at least not to the point that they can ensure that they're the father of all the young that those females produce. And when we started applying DNA fingerprinting to our work on red-winged blackbirds about 10 years ago, we discovered that probably 25 to 30% of all the young are actually sired by males other than the territory owner, usually neighboring males, sometimes males from way across the marsh, but clearly there's a lot of hanky-panky going on.
Now, what happens if he actually finds out that his female has been fooling around?
It turns out that, in fact, males respond differently in terms of how vigorous they are in defending a nest, depending upon whether they're the father of all the young, some of the young, or none of the young. And they defend nests where they're the father of all the young more vigorously than ones where they're the father of some of the young, and least vigorously when it's another male that fathered all the young.
Now, you have a way of testing out how the males respond to a predator near a nest, don't you?
Yes.
Let's go see how you do that. That's a pretty amazing part of your research, I think.
Okay, well, just go and put this crow model up beside the nest, and then you should get a response. We just leave it there, and then we get back out of the territory and watch what happens.
Okay, here comes the male. Here comes the male. Well, that male's not doing too much. He's a little interested, Pat, but not overly excited.
Well, it's possible that he's not the father of the young. So
I suppose so.
Yeah, he may be just holding back. But sometimes the males are more responsive once the females show up. Oh, there's the female now.
The female's coming in.
Oh, yeah. The male's reacting a lot more strongly now. And one possibility is that nest defense may serve more than one function. It could actually serve the function of the obvious, protecting the nest, but it may also be a way of a male sort of showing his worth to the female.
Yeah.
The fact that they respond differently when...
To impress her, she's... Oh, okay. Another female's coming in too now.
Yeah. Well, it's been speculated that one advantage of group living, having multiple females in a territory, it could be that they can collectively protect their nest.
Almost like a little mobbing reaction, yeah.
And what one usually gets, though, is that the female whose nest is most immediately threatened will be the most responsive to that threat.
Here's a third. There's actually 3 females there now.
So these are all females that are nesting in the same territory.
Now, Pat, this behavior of a male having multiple mates, we also saw that earlier in marsh wrens at Cooper's Marsh, and also we saw the female phalarope with a number of males at the sewage ponds. All 3 birds have very different, unusual breeding system, and they're all found in marshes. Is there some sort of correlation here?
Yeah, I think it is more than coincidence. I think it's 2 things about marshes. They're very productive habitats, so there's a lot of resources there for birds to use.
Lots of food.
And that means that you can put more birds in a fixed space. And the other thing is that marshes tend to be 2-dimensional. They're not structured like a forest where you have the canopy and the intermediate layers and the ground layers. What that means is that, say, in the case of red-winged blackbirds, a single male can sit up on his territory and he can see what's going on in the whole territory. So he can defend an area that can support multiple mates, and he can simultaneously, at least to some extent, keep track of them. Not perfectly, but better than he certainly could in the same situation in the forest.
There are many ways to see a marsh. You can don chest waders and wade through it. You can take a floating boardwalk and walk over it. But my favorite way is to launch a canoe and paddle through it. As you glide past those cattails, there are so many things to see. Flowers peek out at you. And especially in the evening or early in the morning, a host of birds greet you. Some are very easy to see as they sing. Others sing from some hidden recess. And of course, through the seasons, the players change. So if you paddle through a migration, a whole new set of animals are there. And often the smaller creatures that call the marsh home are just as fascinating as the larger ones. So a marsh is just full of life, both large and small. No matter when you go there, there is always something to see. Muskrats and ducks, great blue herons, and of course, red-winged blackbirds. Aren't marshes an incredible habitat? Thanks for coming along. Join me next time for another adventure where everything we meet is wild by nature.